What up, YouTube? This is Taboo Lexicon. I want to thank you for watching this video. And I want to give a big thank you shout out to the guys at Sakred for giving me the opportunity to speak to you guys through their YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm a big fan of what you're doing and what you stand for, so thank you. Thank you very much. Today's topic is about quiet times and specifically how to have a quiet time. And what I want to do is I want to share to you guys why I think it's important to have a quiet time if you're a believer, and then I want to share with you some of the ways that I've had the most successful or productive quiet times in my life. So let's get right into it. Why do we need to have a quiet time? What's the point? And I'll just tell you that as a believer, getting all of my spiritual food on Sundays is not enough. Okay, so if I depend on what I get from church and that community that we have on Sundays and Sundays alone, it's kind of like if you imagined eating all of your food for the week on Sunday. You'd be really full and exhausted almost on Sunday, and then through the rest of the week you'd get weaker and you'd be powerless and you'd just be miserable, right? So I kind of look at it the same way. If I try to binge on spiritual food on Sunday and never eat anymore on Monday through Saturday, I'm going to be miserable, I'm going to be ineffective, I'm going to be weak. The other aspect of this is I look at the Gospels and I read about Jesus and how the Gospels say, tell us times when Jesus gets up early in the morning and he prays, and he gets up in the middle of the night and he prays and he spends time with the Father. And I think to myself, if Jesus is deity wrapped in man's flesh and he needs to and wants to spend time with the Father, I feel like we should need that and want that even more as mere humans. So that's where I come from on quiet times. That's why I think it's important. I want to be effective, and if Jesus needed to and wanted to have quiet times, I feel like I should need to and want to just as well. So how do you have a successful quiet time, and how do you define a successful quiet time? Well, people might look at this at different ways. Some people might say, I have a tangible encounter with the presence of God, and that's how I know it was a successful quiet time. I don't really define mine that way. Let me kind of lay out the way I go about a quiet time and the ones that have been most successful and productive for me. So the approach I take is a scripture-led, worship-based approach to worshiping God and spending time with Him. So the way that looks is usually I like to do my quiet time in the living room. There's a lot of space in there, and a lot of times I like to just either get on my knees or lay down on the floor, and I'll play some worship music kind of lightly in the background. I don't want it to be a distraction, but I'm a very rhythm-oriented person. And when there's a rhythm to my life that's consistent, I just seem to be, I don't know, I work better that way. So I like there to be some kind of rhythm to kind of set the pace when I have my quiet time. So I'll play some worship music, then I take out my Bible, and wherever I'm reading at that time, I open it up and I start reading. And what I do is I let the scripture lead me in my prayer time. So let's say, for example, I'm reading about Daniel, and I see how God is his protection in the lion's den. He's faithful to him, and he's just all around good to Daniel and the people of Israel while they're in captivity in Babylon. So taking that example, what I would probably do is I'd start to pray to God and kind of pray the scripture back to him and pray in reference to the scripture I just read. I would say, God, I thank you so much for being Daniel's protection when he wouldn't waver in his faith towards you. I thank you for protecting Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and when they were cast into the fire for their beliefs, I thank you for protecting them. I thank you for being faithful to Daniel. I thank you for being faithful to your people, faithful to your word. And then what I usually do is I come out of that. That's kind of like that's Thanksgiving, right? And then I go into praise. So an example of that is, God, there is no one like you. There is no one I want more. There is no one who satisfies me more. You are the source of my joy. My cup overflows with joy in your presence. Something like that. And the reason I do that is because the scripture tells us in Psalms to enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. So my ultimate goal is to be in the presence of God, and I feel like the book of Psalms kind of gives us a formula to do that. And sometimes you're going to feel the presence of God. Sometimes it's tangible and you really feel it in a real way, and sometimes I don't. But I do know what the scripture says, and I do trust it to be true. And even though I may not feel his presence at a particular time, I do know that if I'm coming to him boldly, and I come to him with thanksgiving and praise, I know that he's there. I know that he hears me, and I take it on faith. So let's recap what we've hit so far. I open up the word and I read, and I let it guide me into thanksgiving and praise. And the next part, I believe, is really important and gets overlooked a lot when it comes to prayer. A lot of times prayer is kind of like a grocery list that we give to God. It's things that we want him to give us or to do for us. And a lot of times we'll even couch it in so that you can get the glory for this, God, or so we can tell people how good you are or whatever. And I think, this is my opinion, and feel free to disagree with me in the comments or on Twitter or just in your heart, but I believe the most important aspect of prayer is listening. Okay, so I'm always asking God, I'm saying, I pray a prayer out of Ephesians that you've seen in my Morning Word series, that he would let the spirit of wisdom and revelation rest on me so I could know him better. And I'm always asking God to reveal himself to me in a greater way, because I think if I can see him more clearly, I can worship him more appropriately, if that makes sense. So I'm asking him to show me new things. I'm asking him to talk to me, to teach me, to guide me, to be my strength, and all those kinds of things. So it's not just me laying out a grocery list for God to complete and check off, and it's more about me worshiping him, me being thankful with a heart of gratitude, a heart of praise, and for me just to spend time in his presence and to be whatever he wants me to be, to hear whatever he wants me to hear, to do whatever he wants me to do. And I just think that's such an important part of prayer. I would like to encourage you, if you don't employ that already in your worship, in your quiet time or your prayer life, I would really like to encourage you to try that and to do that, and just make the time to listen to God, to be still, know he is God, and to just listen and wait for him. We can't be caught up in our daily schedule so much that we forfeit our time in his presence, and we forfeit the time to listen to what he has to say. God spoke creation into existence, right? We believe that if we're Christians. He spoke it with his words. He spoke through the law and the prophets. He spoke when Jesus was on earth, and I believe he still speaks today. So it's important for us to be still and to listen to him and to know that he's God. So guys, that is my take on quiet times. That's why I think they're important. That's why I think they're necessary. And that's really the formula to my most successful and productive quiet times. Scripture-led, worship-based time with the Father, communion with the Father. So I hope this has encouraged you. I hope it helps you and it has equipped you to take your spiritual walk to a deeper level. Be blessed, be encouraged. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.